Some quality in the tone of her voice made him whirl back to her. She was holding a gun pointed levelly at his heart. "Listen carefully," she said. "Either you let me in or I shoot you. You may try to shoot me first if you can. You have that choice, and no other. Now decide." His mouth fell open and the key dropped from his hand. "Get out of my way," she said. He shook his head frantically, pressing his back against the door. "Oh, Christ, ma'am," he gulped in the whine of a desperate plea. "I can't shoot at you, seeing as you come from Mr. Thompson, and I can't let you in against the word of Dr. Ferris. What am I to do? I'm only a little fellow. I'm only obeying orders. It's not up to me." "It's your life," she said. "If you let me ask the chief, he'll tell me. I won't let you ask anyone." "But how do I know that you really have an order from Mr. Thompson?" "You don't. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I'm acting on my own, and you'll be punished for obeying me. Maybe I have, and you'll be thrown in jail for disobeying. Maybe Dr. Ferris and Mr. Thompson agree about this. Maybe they don't. And you have to defy one or the other. These are the things you have to decide. There is no one to ask, no one to call, no one to tell you. You will have to decide them yourself." "But I can't decide." "Why me?" "Because it's your body that's barring my way." "But I can't decide. I'm not supposed to decide." "I'll count to 3, she said. "Then I'll shoot." Wait, I haven't said yes or no," he cried, cringing tighter against the door, as if immobility of mind and body were his best protection. 1, she counted. She could see his eyes staring at her in terror. 2. She could see that the gun held less terror for him than the alternative she offered. 3. Calmly and impersonally, she, who would have hesitated to fire at an animal, pulled the trigger and fired straight at the heart of a man who had wanted to exist without the responsibility of consciousness. Her gun was equipped with a silencer. There was no sound to attract anyone's attention, only the thud of a body falling at her feet. She picked up the key from the ground, then waited for a few brief moments, as had been agreed upon. Francisco was first to join her, coming from behind a corner of the building, then Hank Reardon, then Ragnar Daneskjold. There had been 4 guards posted at intervals among the trees around the building. They were now disposed of. 1 was dead. 3 were left in the brush, bound and gagged. She handed the key to Francisco without a word. He unlocked the door and went in alone, leaving the door open to the width of an inch. The 3 others waited outside by that opening. The hall was lighted by a single naked bulb stuck in the middle of the ceiling. A guard stood at the foot of the stairs leading to the 2nd floor. "Who are you?" he cried at the sight of Francisco entering, as if he owned the place. "Nobody's supposed to come in here tonight." "I did," said Francisco. "Why did Rusty let you in?" "He must have had his reasons." "He wasn't supposed to." "Somebody has changed your suppositions." Francisco's eyes were taking a lightning inventory of the place. A 2nd guard stood on the landing at the turn of the stairs, looking down at them and listening. "What's your business?" "Copper mining." "Huh? I mean, who are you?" "The name's too long to tell you. I'll tell it to your chief. Where is he?" "I'm asking the questions." But he backed a step away. Don't you act like a big shot, or I'll—" "Hey, Pete!" "He is!" cried the 2nd guard, paralyzed by Francisco's manner. The first one was struggling to ignore it. His voice grew louder with the growth of his fear as he snapped at Francisco. "What are you after?" "I said I'll tell it to your chief. Where is he?" "I'm asking the questions." "I'm not answering them." "Oh, you're not, are you?" snarled Pete, who had but one recourse when in doubt. His hand jerked to the gun on his hip. Francisco's hand was too fast for the 2 men to see its motion, and his gun was too silent. What they saw and heard next was the gun flying out of Pete's hand, along with the splatter of blood from his shattered fingers, and his muffled howl of pain. He collapsed, groaning. In the instant when the 2nd guard grasped it, he saw that Francisco's gun was aimed at him. "Don't shoot, mister," he cried. "Come down here with your hands up," ordered Francisco, holding his gun aimed with one hand and waving a signal to the crack of the door with the other. By the time the guard descended the stairs, Reardon was there to disarm him, and Daneskjold to tie his hands and feet. The sight of Dagny seemed to frighten him more than the rest. He could not understand it. The 3 men wore caps and windbreakers. and but for their manner could be taken for a gang of highwaymen. The presence of a lady was inexplicable. "Now," said Francisco, "where is your chief?" The guard jerked his head in the direction of the stairs. "Up there." "How many guards are there in the building?" "9. Where are they?" "One's on the cellar stairs. The others are all up there." "Where?" "In the big laboratory. The one with the window." "All of them?" "Yes." "What are these rooms?" He pointed at the doors leading off the hall. "They're labs, too. They're locked for the night." "Who's got the key?" "Him." He jerked his head at Pete. Reardon and Donneschild took the key from Pete's pocket and hurried soundlessly to check the rooms, while Francisco continued. "Are there any other men in the building?" "No." "Isn't there a prisoner here?" "Oh. Yeah, I guess so. There must be, or they wouldn't have kept us all on duty." "Is he still here?" "That I don't know. They'd never tell us." "Is Dr. Ferris here?" "No, he left 10-15 minutes ago." "Now that laboratory upstairs. Does it open right on the stair landing?" "Yes." "How many doors are there?" 3. It's the one in the middle." "What are the other rooms?" "There's the small laboratory on one side and Dr. Ferris's office on the other." "Are there connecting doors between them?" "Yes." Francisco was turning to his companions, when the guard said pleadingly, "Mister, can I ask you a question?" "Go ahead." "Who are you?" He answered in the solemn tone of a drawing-room introduction. "Francisco Domingo Carlos Andrés Sebastián d'Anconia." He left the guard gaping at him and turned to a brief whispered consultation with his companions. In a moment it was Reardon who went up the stairs, swiftly, soundlessly, and alone. Cages containing rats and guinea pigs were stacked against the walls of the laboratory. They had been put there by the guards who were playing poker on the long laboratory table in the center. 6 of them were playing. 2 were standing in opposite corners watching the entrance door, guns in hand. It was Reardon's face that saved him from being shot on sight when he entered. His face was too well known to them and too unexpected. He saw 8 heads staring at him with recognition, and with inability to believe what they were recognizing. He stood at the door, his hands in the pockets of his trousers, with the casual, confident manner of a business executive. "Who is in charge here?" he asked, in the politely abrupt voice of a man who does not waste time. "You." "You're not," stammered a lanky, surly individual at the card table. "I'm Hank Reardon. Are you the chief?" "Yeah, but where in blazes do you come from?" "From New York." "What are you doing here?" "Then I take it you have not been notified." "Should I have? About what?" The swift, touchy, resentful suspicion that his superiors had slighted his authority was obvious in the chief's voice. He was a tall, emaciated man with jerky movements, a sallow face, and the restless, unfocused eyes of a drug addict. "About my business here." You can't have any business here," he snapped, torn between the fear of a bluff and the fear of having been left out of some important top-level decision. "Aren't you a traitor and a deserter and a—" "I see that you're behind the times, my good man." The 7 others in the room were staring at Reardon with an awed, superstitious uncertainty. The 2 who held guns still held them aimed at him in the impassive manner of automatons. He did not seem to take notice of them. "What is it you say is your business here?" snapped the chief. "I'm here to take charge of the prisoner whom you are to deliver to me." "If you came from headquarters, you'd know that I'm not supposed to know anything about any prisoner, and that nobody is to touch him." "Except me." The chief leaped to his feet, darted to a telephone, and seized the receiver. He had not raised it halfway to his ear when he dropped it abruptly with a gesture that sent a vibration of panic through the room. He had had time to hear that the telephone was dead, and to know that the wires were cut. His look of accusation as he whirled to Reardon broke against the faintly contemptuous reproof of Reardon's voice. "That's no way to guard a building. If this is what you allowed to happen, better let me have the prisoner before anything happens to him, if you don't want me to report you for negligence as well as insubordination." The chief dropped heavily back on his chair, slumped forward across the table, and looked up at Reardon with a glance that made his emaciated face resemble the animals that were beginning to stir in the cages. "Who is the prisoner?" he asked. "My good man," said Reardon, "if your immediate superiors did not see fit to tell you, I certainly will not." "They didn't see fit to tell me about your coming here either," yelled the chief. his voice confessing the helplessness of anger and broadcasting the vibrations of impotence to his men.
How do I know you're on the level? With the phone out of order, who's going to tell me? How am I to know what to do?
That's your problem, not mine.
I don't believe you.
His cry was too shrill to project conviction.
I don't believe that the government would send you on a mission when you're one of those vanishing traitors and friends of John Galt, too.
But haven't you heard?
What?
John Galt has made a deal with the government and has brought us all back.
Oh, thank God,
cried one of the guards, the youngest.
Shut your mouth. You're not to have any political opinions,
snapped the chief, and jerked back to Reardon.
Why hasn't it been announced on the radio?
Do you presume to hold opinions on when and how the government should choose to announce its policies? In the long moment of silence, they could hear the rustle of the animals clawing at the bars of their cages. I think I should remind you, said Reardon, that your job is not to question orders but to obey them, that you are not to know or understand the policies of your superiors, that you are not to judge, to choose, or to doubt.
But I don't know whether I'm supposed to obey you.
If you refuse, you'll take the consequences. Crouching against the table, the chief moved his glance slowly, appraisingly, from Reardon's face to the two gunmen in the corners. The gunmen steadied their aim by an almost imperceptible movement. A nervous rustle went through the room. An animal squeaked shrilly in one of the cages. I think I should also tell you, said Reardon, his voice faintly harder, that I am not alone. My friends are waiting outside.
Where?
All around this room.
How many?
You'll find out. One way or the other.
Say, Chief,
moaned a shaky voice from among the guards. We don't want to tangle with those people. They're...
Shut up,
roared the chief, leaping to his feet and brandishing his gun in the direction of the speaker.
You're not going to turn yellow on me, any of you bastards.